Hey, this is kind of crazy. This is Amy Winslow here at George Eastman House in Rochester, New York. One of the things that I'm noticing is how much business information there is here. So, quick little thing for you. George Eastman is the creator, inventor of the Kodak camera back in 1888. Pretty cool. I'm here in the House Museum, so I can't really talk very loudly, so hopefully you can hear me. But one of the things that I'm really seeing is how much he had to be flexible, because he really started his business as a dry plate company for the daguerreotype cameras of the time, the reflex cameras, and then found he could make more money by adding the emulsion onto the plates. And so he actually kind of discovered that by accident when he was going to go on this trip. And so I just want to show you a little bit about just what's here and some of the lessons. So you know, the patent was for only the camera shutter, and then he got a trademark for the Kodak name on September 1888. The company was actually named the George Eastman Dry Plate and Film Company. Like all entrepreneurs, he kind of realized when he saw how popular Kodak as a name was, he changed the name of the company to Eastman Kodak in 1892. So what's really cool is that he really thought about the naming of his product line, Kodak. It's totally a made-up word. You can kind of see over here, I'll take you over, a trademark reference letter here. And you know, it says that he's right here, in regard to the word Kodak, I can say that it was a purely arbitrary combination of letters, not derived or whole or in part from any existing word. And he goes on about how the criteria, he really searched for a name that would work. So when you're thinking about branding, this is really important too. Arrived at after considerable search for a word that would answer all my requirements for a trademark name. The principle of these were that it be short, incapable of being misspelled, because that would destroy its identity. It must have a vigorous and distinctive personality and must meet the requirements of various foreign trademark laws, English being the one that's the most difficult to satisfy. So, and then he goes on to say, finally culminated in a refusal to register our word solio, which is really, they were trying to get a trademark name for itself, and they were denied. So they had to be flexible and come up with another name, and he happened to like the K of Kodak, and it was easy to say in every language, and it was impossible to be misspelled. Well, the other thing was that it was going to be a great marketing name. So since he needed to pay attention to internet, check this out. So he knew that the marketing was going to be important, and it was intended for the novice photographer. So if you notice up here, it says, you know, the instructions were 5 simple steps. Pull the cord gently, hold it firmly, point the Kodak, press the button, turn the key. So really important. And he had actually hired an advertising writer who was his cousin to write the instruction manual, but it was overly and it really was too complicated, quite frankly. And he knew that this camera that he had built was for brand new photographers, no experience, and really wanted to make it really simple. So when you're paying attention to your instruction manuals, think about this. All your instructions for a product have to be relatable to the market that you're putting it together for, okay? So here, we're gonna go over here a little bit, and I'll show you some of the early ones. So this is the number 5 Kodak folding camera, the number 4 Kodak Junior. This is the shipping box from it, so that's its original packaging if you think about it in our terms. And it goes on through all the way back. So this is the number 4 Kodak, and it was introduced, believe it or not, in 1889. And then this is the number 3 Junior. It actually had a removable back. It could take roll film or dry plates. And the images, get this, they were only 3 1/4 inches by 4 1/4 inches. And that camera was originally $40. So this was also $40. This was a number 3 full size. And then we go back to the number 2, right? This original price of a camera in 1889 at the Paris Exposition, this was $32.50. So think about the pricing of that back in 1889, $32.50. And then these are even earlier. This I think is the Kodak number 1. Here we go. Here's a Kodak number 1. Now this was really kind of an intriguing camera. This one came loaded with enough paper to do 100 prints, and what would happen is you would actually take your images and then you'd ship the whole camera with the paper inside it back to Kodak, and they would process it there. So it was $25 in 1889, and you had to ship your entire camera back. You didn't even get to keep the camera, so it caused quite a big problem. And then later they got the price down with some of the early, this is one of the earliest disposable cameras, if you think about it. They got the price down to $1, and it's that camera in like 1892 that really made Kodak a lot of his money. It made George Eastman a lot of his money, sorry. So it's really important when you're creating a product. Yes, there's the what you want, but there's also really what your market needs. And a $25 camera in 1888 was a great place to start, but they really only did about 5,000 of these cameras total. Where they really made the most money was when they found a way to make it accessible to a lot of people in a market. So I really I'm struck by how much they had to be flexible about this. And then the other thing that was a great reminder today is that these cameras were created from parts from companies all around the Rochester, New York area. Bausch & Lomb did the lenses. Metal parts were built by another company. The wood parts were built by a cabinet maker. So they had all these local firms involved and partnering with them and helping. And the collaboration was really important because he couldn't solve it all. Now, you also have to keep in mind that Thomas Edison was around the same time, and George Eastman and Thomas Edison actually knew each other. Eastman and Kodak did the film for Thomas Edison's motion picture cameras, which is a pretty intriguing connection. And then, now, a lot of people, when they're creating their products, think they've got to get some financing in place. Well, George Eastman needed financing too. His financing came actually from one of the people that rented a room from his mother's boarding house. Henry Strong is very prominent here in Rochester, and he actually created all his money selling buggy whips. And so back in the day, his house burned, and he moved his family into Mary Kilbourne Eastman's boarding house. And so he met George when George was in his, I guess, early 20s. And they became very good friends. Well, he had the money, and he's actually the financier. So it just goes to show you that even back then, you don't know where your connections are going to come from. Someone who was staying at his mother's boarding house with his family became how he made his first investments in the technology when he was, George Eastman was only 26 years old. So pretty intriguing. I just thought I'd share all of this with you. And keep in mind that the patents and things that he got were not on the entire thing. They just protected what was important. Talk to you soon.